Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to talk about are Bvlgari watches, and these, there was far more to them than I imagined originally. So let's get started because there's a lot of stuff to find out about. First of all, Bvlgari is owned by what's called LVMH, or Louis Vuitton. It's Moët, Hennessy, Louis Vuitton SE, which is a French company. And they're sort of like Richemont or Swatch, one of these other ones that own a lot of different watch companies. And they now own Bvlgari. Okay, so let's take a look at this. And the first thing that I want to do is to say they have a lot of really interesting women's watches in a line called the Serpentine. I think they have another one too, but they're all quartz, and so I'm not going to be talking about them. The men's watches, and this has just been in about the last 5 years or so, they're to the point now where I think every one of their watches that are on now part of the Bvlgari website, the main watches that they sell, are all Bvlgari manufactured. And what I decided to do, I thought, well, there are a lot of watches out there that are Bvlgari, that are older ones, some of which are ETA or some other lesser expensive or not quite movements, and of course they're very hard to tell which is which, but that's another story. So what I'm going to stick with are just those watches that are currently being manufactured and advertised by Bvlgari. Okay, and but I want to talk about, just for a few seconds, the movements that they have. Okay, now they're BVL for Bvlgari, and there's a 128, it's a hand wound, 138 automatic with 3 hertz, a 191, which is another automatic with 4 hertz, a 193, another automatic, 4 hertz, the 268, which has a flying tourbillon escapement in it, and then the S-key models, the skeletonized ones, are the same thing. The BVL 318 is a thin hand wind, very thin. I'm going to talk about that. Now there are a couple other ones here that are really interesting. One is the BVL 328, which is a Zenith Primero 3600 VPH. That's a real fast one. Now, Louis Vuitton also owns Zenith, so there's that. There's another one called the GG 7800. Now, this was inherited from the Gérald Genta brand. At one time, Genta was working for Bvlgari. He did some of the designs. They wanted to get out of, I guess, what was sort of a fashion watch mode and get into some serious luxury watches. And I think, as you're going to see, they've been very successful, because now everything they have is Bvlgari manufactured. All of the movements are, and their designs are unique. Some of the things you may look at, the one right there, you say, yeah, you know, they copied the Royal Oak or something. But they didn't. I mean, because remember, Gérald Genta designed the Royal Oak. He designed what was called the Bvlgari. He designed the Patek Philippe Nautilus, and he also, this is, I think, he did the Ellipse, the Patek Philippe Ellipse. So there's a lot of stuff. Genta's sort of hard to figure on a lot of other things, though. But so this is the one movement that they have is from Gérald Genta, that they're still producing watches for, is called the GG7800. Okay, so let's get started and take a look at the watches that they have, and why some of them may be really, I mean, I've seen several I'd love to have here, so let's take a look at these. Okay, the first one that we're going to look at is called the Octo Finesse Simo. Okay, and this is a pretty standard looking watch. It's got a hand wound movement in it, and on the back it's got a power reserve indicator, not unlike the Moser, and it's a 40 millimeter extra thin platinum case. Now this thing costs $27,000. Now that sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money for a watch, but a platinum watch, that's not bad at all. And it's 40 millimeters. It's got a lot of nice things. These are almost all dress watches. The sports watches, not so much, but they're all far more interesting, like I said, than I thought. And this is a movement by Bvlgari. All right, the next one is called the Octo Finissimo Automatic, and this one is 3 hertz, and it has a micro rotor in the movement. Another interesting aspect to it, and the prices on these are fairly variable. The one in the upper left is 13,900. Again, it sounds like a lot, but for this level of watch, it's not bad at all. 40 millimeters. Again, it's this extra thin titanium case, and it's got a transparent case back, so you can see the movement, and it's a pretty interesting movement. Plates are pretty good size, which I like, the little plates and bridges, so you can see more of the movement. But these are a couple of the styles. At 3 hertz, this is the main thing I like about it. I like the slower movements on this. It's got a 55-hour power reserve. Nice watch. Good looking watch. All right, the next ones, there are a lot of them. Now this is the workhorse, sort of their, I guess, their ETA 7700 or something like that. It's not ETA. But it's one that's used in a lot of different models of their watches. And here are 3 right here. One's called the Octo Roma, and this is just one of the models that they have. And this particular one is with the metal bracelet, $6,500, not bad at all. And there's another Octo Roma, it's called the Octo Roma 41, which is 41 millimeter. And then at 6 o'clock, down at the bottom down there's a Bvlgari Solo Tempo. Now this watch, this design of Bvlgari was a Gérald Genta design. They're really funny about giving him credit for stuff, and I don't know why. Same with Patek Philippe. They didn't mention him on this big story they had in their magazine about the ellipse. That's the way it goes. Okay, now this is the BVL 191. Is pretty standard looking in terms of the big rotor that goes around. It's got 28,800 dph. That's 4 hertz. Very standard kind of movement there for the watch. So anyway, a lot of the models have this kind of movement. Okay, now this one is the Octo, and it's 41 millimeter. They have their naming is very confusing, so if you're a little confused by this, you're not alone. Now this movement is called the BVL 193. It's 28,800. It's got a little more decoration on it, and it's got a 50-hour power reserve. It's got double barrels. Now this is one of the things about it that makes it a really different kind of movement. That particular watch, that particular Octo, that's more of the sporty kind. Their idea of a sports watch, it's got a rubber band on it, so you can take it out and get it wet and not have to worry about it. But this is an interesting movement. It's 6950. you know, about $7,000 for a watch like that's not bad at all. Now this one is called the Bvlgari Octo Finissimo Chronograph GMT. This is a brand new watch. They didn't even have the price on this. The thing that's important about this watch is it's thin. It's the thinnest automatic chronograph I think that's ever been made. The movement itself is only 3.3 millimeters thick, or thin, I should say. The whole watch with the case and everything is only 6.9 millimeters wide, 42 millimeters. It's got a titanium case. It's got something I like. I really like. I'm not a big fan of automatic watches because they have that big rotor that blocks, you know, what you can see of the movement. This one's got a peripheral rotor around the outside, and I'm glad to see more and more watches are made with the peripheral rotor, because then you can have the best of both worlds. The automatic, you can see the movement through the back, and you also have automatic. So anyway, all good things all together with that. So this watch is this is creating quite a stir, and it's a lot of innovation. That's important to remember about this. This is not just cranking out something like, you know, 1,000 others that you're making. Okay, now this next one is sort of one of the other big deals about any watch. This is the Octo Finissimo Tourbillon. This one was estimated around 90,000 on here. The movement is a BVL 268. It runs at 28,800. It's hand wound, which I like even better than the peripheral rotor. So you get to handle it a lot more. And this watch, again, it has that look to it. You can see Giunta's hand on the design around the dial and so forth. All right, now this one is got two names. It's called Octo Regionality and also Octo Velocissimo. This watch is a pretty cool watch too. Now, this has what's called the BVL 328, and the BVL 328 is the Zenith El Primero 400. Now that thing, that runs like a racehorse. That's 36,000 VPH, but it's got 50 hours of reserve, which is, you know, running that fast is pretty good. This particular watch, you get a lot of watch. Now this one is a chronograph, and running at that speed with that speedy Zenith in it, that's going to be some watch. They refer to it as l'original. I don't know why. Okay, now this one is has a Gérald Genta movement. It's called the Gérald Genta 7800. Now this was inherited from the Gérald Genta brand when they bought it, and then Gérald Genta came to work for them and so forth, and did a lot of these designs. Now this particular watch, the Octo Solitarello Retrogradi chronograph, that's about a $50,000 watch. That's a pretty hefty deal on that. However, I found one in one of the secondary markets for the same. Well, it's not gold, but it's very similar watch. It doesn't have all the retrogrades to it, but that was $64.50. So, you know, here it's what you can do with Bvlgari is that if you look around, you can find some great buys on it, or you can find ones that they're past when they were all using ETAs and at the beginning of when they were putting some really interesting movements. This is one of the more interesting ones, one I might go sort of keeping my eye out for. All right, now this next one, the last one we have here, is extremely interesting. There's a designer named Daniel Roth, and this one is called the Bvlgari Endure Chronospirit Daniel Roth. Now the thing about this, I'm not sure what year Roth came to work at with Bvlgari. But before that, he had made a watch that was called the Endure, hard to say, and he entered it in the 2009 Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève, and he was one of the finalists in the sports category. And the movement in this was called the DR1306. Now, you might notice on the Bvlgari one on the left there, it's right on the front. It has Daniel Roth caliber 1306. So, you know, Daniel Roth watches have a real range, and some of the lower ranges may not sort of be his stuff. I mean, it's sort of like if there were some smaller watches that he made, and I'm not even sure about the branding of some of these, but the watches that he's known for is this great deal of innovation in the movements that he made. Now, the 1306, I don't know if that's one of his bigger achievements or not, but it's based on a Girard-Perregaux caliber 3100. But this to me was like, whoa. Now, I would really like to have a Daniel Roth watch, but the ones that I was looking at on sort of the hot upper end ones, the kind of thing, this is a sports watch, are like up to $80,000-$85,000. So I thought, holy smoke, this might be one of those watches that really pays to look carefully at the movements. Now, you might say, well, that the DR1306 isn't one of his major movements, but at least it's in the affordable range, and the watch overall is a Daniel Roth design. And if you look at the one that was entered in the 2009 Grand Prix, and you look at the Bvlgari branded one, there isn't any difference. I mean, there may be a few details in terms of the dial design, but otherwise they're the same watch. And that particular one I saw there was $59.95. I saw another one exactly like it that they were asking $12,000 for it. So this is the thing about Bvlgari. I don't really think the guys like Genta and Roth, they weren't crazy about working for Bvlgari. Not because anything was wrong with Bvlgari, but they're both very independent watchmakers. Roth is still making these incredible watches. He does it pretty much all by himself and puts out, a very limited number, and they get snatched up pretty quickly by people who have a great deal of money themselves. So, to me, getting to know this brand, first of all, there's standards ones. They have some, I think, very good entry-level watches. One I saw was one of the Bvlgaris was like $4,000 and it was I think it was a brass, good-looking watch, very good-looking. That's one thing I'll say about Bvlgari. Primarily, this was more of a dress watch, or what I call an office watch, one you could wear every day. And it was really nice. By the way, I've got on my Christian Vanderklaw watch with my little moon face on it. The moon's coming up, so it's always fun to watch. Okay, well, listen, this is one that you may be interested in. If you're looking for some affordable, high horology, or even exceptional horology, and I don't know if there's any exceptional horology with Bvlgari. Some of the people that work with them were exceptional, though. So I'd really like to hear what your comments are, your ideas about this watch are, and any other thing you have to say. Of course, this is always an invitation to subscribe if you'd like as well. Now, on Sunday, we're going to have a watch review, and Monday is a very important day because that's the day that the entries into the 2019 Grand Prix come out, and we start our contest. We'll be giving away 3 watches. So put that on your calendar. So until Sunday, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Outside, the Art and Science of Watch Collection.